Hey everybody, welcome to music again. It's me, I'm here. How are you? Hey, good to see you. You're looking good. All right, you excited for summer vacation? Me too. All right, so this is our last music till then. And I thought we'd start with a song today. So let's do it. It is a Modeh Ani song. And it's really cool for tefillah. And I know you use a certain tune for a certain melody for Modeh Ani. All right, let's go. And we're going to do echo. Modeh Ani. Your turn. Good. Lifanecha, lifanecha. Good. Melech chai v'kayam. Your turn. Good. Shechezarta. Good echoing. Binishmati. Bechemla. Bechemla. Good. Rabba emunateh. Rabba emunateh. One more time. Rabba emunatecha. Your turn. Rabba emunatecha. Good job. Okay, now we're going to learn about a new composer today. Guess where they are from? They are from Russia. He is from Russia. And who else did we study recently who was from Russia? Mr. Tchaikovsky, right? Peter Tchaikovsky. All right, so we have another Russian composer today, and we're going to learn about his life. And he was a big fan of Tchaikovsky, so that's why I thought of him for you today. Yep. So we're going to learn about his life and about his music. So his name is Mr. Igor Stravinsky. He's no longer alive, but I wanted to show you a picture of him. It's always good to start with a picture. This is when he was older, not when he was a kid. Very famous guy. All right. So we are going to start with just a little bit about him, and then we'll start at the beginning of his life. So he was born in Russia, and he died in New York. So he had moved to America by then. He was one of the most important composers of the 20th century. You were born in the 21st century. I was born in the 20th century, in the 1900s. So he was a leader in modernism in music. What is modernism? It means a brand new sound for the time. Nowadays, it sounds still modern, but new ideas, modern ideas that no one had done before, no one had tried to do in composing music before. So he was brought up in Russia, but when the Russian Revolution started, he moved to Switzerland and then to Paris, and finally he moved to the United States. Stravinsky wrote music in different styles. That means different types of music: slow music, fast music, modern sounding music. At first he wrote music similar to his teacher, who was really a famous Russian composer, super famous, Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov. He loved his native Russian music. That means he loved the music that was like Russian folk tunes and things that he had heard growing up. He wrote music which had very complicated chords. You know what a chord is? It's 3 or more notes. 3 notes, 4 notes, 5 notes, as many as you want. And complicated rhythms. It is lively music, and some of his best-known works were written for the Ballet Russe. The Ballet Russe was a big ballet company, a big troupe of dancers, a big group of dancers who performed ballet in Russia, and they were very famous. The Firebird, Petrushka, The Rite of Spring, Les Noces, Pulcinella, and Apollo Musaget. Those are famous ballets. They were written from 1910 to 1928, so over a period of 18 years, right? If you're good at math, you know that's 18 years. Then he changed his style and wrote in what is called the neoclassical way. Remember, we learned about Mozart, who was a classical composer, and Mozart's teacher for a while was Haydn, Joseph Haydn, who was also a famous classical composer. Okay, so Stravinsky based his music on this neoclassical music. He based it on Mozart type of music, classical music, but he changed it up a lot. He made it a whole new ballgame. His only full-length opera was called The Rake's Progress, and in later years, he also wrote what is called serial music. Not cereal that you eat, okay? Here we go. All right. Igor was now we're going to talk about his early life, okay, when he was growing up. He was the third of 4 children. So he had 2 older brothers, then Igor, and then a younger brother, all boys. As a child, he spent the winter months in St. Petersburg. Remember, we talked about St. Petersburg when we talked about Tchaikovsky, a big, major, beautiful Russian city. And he spent the summers in the country where several of his relatives on his mother's side, like aunts and uncles and cousins, had large estates. A large estate is like a huge house with a lot of land. Igor was not particularly good at school. He was not such a great student, but he often went to see the operas in which his father, Fyodor, was performing. Fyodor was an opera singer. Igor's father was an opera singer. He had a beautiful bass voice. That means the low man's voice in opera. Or a singer has a bass voice. If he's a man, it means he is low. All right. Fyodor sang at the Opera House in Kiev, which is also a huge Russian city, and later at the Mariinsky Theater in St. Petersburg. Igor also went to ballets and even heard Tchaikovsky. He saw Tchaikovsky conduct the orchestra near the end of Tchaikovsky's life. Wow, that's quite a treat, right? Especially since Tchaikovsky was like a musical hero of Stravinsky. For a time, Stravinsky studied law at the University of St. Petersburg, but he gave it up in 1906. Remember, Tchaikovsky also started out studying law. All right, so then Igor got married, and he had a son and a daughter. All right, so meanwhile, since he was a kid, he had played piano and had lessons on the piano, and also lessons in harmony and counterpoint, which is like the part of music. Harmony, makes the music sound beautiful, not just the melody, but you have the harmony making it sound full and beautiful. And he wrote some short piano pieces and showed them to the composer Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov, the father of a friend. So he knew the Rimsky-Korsakov's son. Rimsky-Korsakov told him he ought to continue to have private music lessons, like one-on-one with a teacher, instead of going to the conservatory. Remember, we talked about what a conservatory is? It's a college or a school where you only study music. How fun. Shortly after this, Stravinsky's father died, and Stravinsky went to stay with Rimsky-Korsakov, all right? So he met many musical people there, and Rimsky-Korsakov taught him how to write for the different instruments. That means not just making up things for the piano, but writing for violin, for cello, for the brass family, for the wind family, like the clarinets and the flute, for the percussion, the drums, right? Okay, so you have to learn how to write parts for all those instruments if you're going to become a super composer. All right, so in 1905, he began to take twice weekly private lessons from Rimsky-Korsakov. So that means he would have like a lesson on Monday and then a lesson again on Friday, or whatever, 2 days, right? And he came to look upon Rimsky-Korsakov as a second father. Remember, Igor's dad had died, so Rimsky-Korsakov was like a substitute dad for him. These lessons continued until Rimsky-Korsakov's death. And soon after Rimsky-Korsakov died, Stravinsky met a very famous producer of ballets. That means this man, Sergei Diaghilev, he put on productions of the ballet. He wasn't dancing. He was paying like for the orchestra and for the scenery and for the costumes and for the dancers, right? So to be able to produce the ballet is to put up the money for it. Diaghilev wanted to put on performances of new operas and ballet. So he needed a composer to write the music. And he thought Stravinsky might be the perfect person. he asked him to write music for a ballet called The Firebird. We're going to listen to some Firebird music right now. And The Firebird was a Russian fairy tale. How cool. All right, here we go. We're going to pull up our music for The Firebird right now. Okay, here we go. I have it all set up for you. Okay. Here we go. Firebird Suite. All right, and Stravinsky is conducting. I'm going to take the camera over to the TV that I have and show you Stravinsky. Actually, Mr. Stravinsky conducting the orchestra of his Firebird music for ballet. This is fun, right? Exciting. Okay, so let's push start. We're gonna rewind.
Flossy's Lash Lift Mascara from Maybelline, New York. The look of a lash lift without the salon hassle.
Sorry. Okay, here we go. Oh, another ad.
Explore more inspirational recipes at PresidentCheese.com.
Wow, super annoying.
Flossy's Lash Lift Mascara from Maybelline, New York. The look of a lash lift without the salon
Three in a
hassle.
row. Not good. All right, here we go. We're gonna rewind it. Okay, so here we are. Mr. Stravinsky, and I'm actually going to show you what he's doing, which is conducting Firebird. Here we go.
The Firebird.
The Firebird with Mr. Igor Stravinsky. Okay, let me show you so you can actually see him conducting. Here he is. Whoops. Let's get a shot of my TV. Oh, there he is. You can see him. Cool, right? Nice to see the conductor conducting his own music. How exciting. This is very exciting ballet music. The whole orchestra. It's just the orchestra playing. Very, exciting and dramatic. There are the strings, you hear them? The trumpets. That's the marimba. It's like a big xylophone. You have to stand up to play it. Cool. All right. So I wish we had time to listen to more of that, but I want to have you listen to some other famous Stravinsky music. So we're going to keep going. Okay. So some of the music is often performed in a concert hall without the dancers. This is called a suite. Not like a sweet like sweet candy, like a suite of music is a collection of dances or a collection of songs or pieces. The Nutcracker is a suite, ballet suite, because we have the Arabian dance and the Waltz of the Flowers and the Sugar Plum Fairy dance, right, that we listen to. And the Firebird shows Stravinsky's love of Russian folk music. All right, so all of a sudden he was famous all over the world because of this ballet. His music was especially well known in Europe and in Paris, where the Ballets Russes were based. The next work Stravinsky wrote for the Ballets Russes was Petrushka. So Petrushka is the story of a puppet who comes to life, a little bit like Pinocchio. At first, it was performed in Paris, and it became instantly famous, just like the Firebird. Wow, that was good for him, right? Okay, so we're going to listen to piano playing, a pianist playing the one of three dances from Petrushka, because Stravinsky wrote three dances from the ballet for the piano to be performed, not with the ballet, but anytime a pianist wanted to. They could just pull out the dance music for Petrushka and play it. And it's super difficult. You have to be taking piano for many years in order to play this, because it's very tricky, and you have to have big hands too. Okay, so I'm going to pull it up right now, and we're going to listen to the first dance. There are 3 dances that he made a piano version of. Really cool. You're going to love it. And you're going to see how hard it is. We're going to rewind it because it's on at the beginning. Let's do it. Okay, here we go. Very lively. Very happy, right? Happy music. And tricky. You can hear. Takes a lot of practice. Lots of notes. All over the piano, high, low, and everywhere in between. Beautiful. Amazing. And so, you have to be a very good pianist to play that music. And Mr. Stravinsky was an amazing pianist, as we know, because he had a lot of lessons. So that's great. Now we're going to hear some ballet music from another ballet of Stravinsky called The Rite of Spring. Okay, and The Rite of Spring was performed at the Théâtre des Champs-Élysées. Where do you think that is? In Paris. You're right, in Paris, France. So, when the ballet was performed, people were very quiet, and they didn't know what they thought, because this music is very, very unusual, and it was like very new sounding. So we're just about to listen to The Rite of Spring. Okay, so, all right. Sorry, that's my answering machine. I'm really sorry, guys. Okay, somebody leaving a message. Okay, so here we go for The Rite of Spring. All right, this is exciting. You're going to love this music. It's really different, and it's really beautiful. The Rite of Spring, here we are. Okay, so we have Mr. Leonard Bernstein. Now, you know Leonard Bernstein was a famous Jewish composer and conductor. So I'm going to take the camera over to the TV and show you Mr. Bernstein. We learned about his life and his music, didn't we? Okay, so off we go.
Backyards, bathtubs, and patios are always open. Frito-Lay, let's summer.
We don't want to. Oh, there we go again with the Okay, we're going to skip it. So, here we go. I'm going to show you how Leonard Bernstein is conducting, and you'll see what he really looked like. We saw pictures in the book, right, of Leonard Bernstein. Now I'm going to show you him actually conducting this orchestra for The Rite of Spring. Here we go. Everybody's clapping for him. Let me show you. Okay, here he is. You can see him. Let me get you to... Oh, there he is. Leonard Bernstein. Get ready. The first part of Rite of Spring is all for the wind instruments, the oboes, the clarinets, the flutes, the bassoon. Very mysterious sounding, very smooth. different part. Okay? Okay. A little bit more forward. Here we go. To pause because we have more to learn about Stravinsky. All right, so then he wrote another ballet. Wow, this guy loves ballets. He's into it. And it's called Les Noces, which means the wedding in French. So he went back to Russia to collect some things that would help him compose it. When he returned to Switzerland, World War I had started. Okay, so his family spent a lot of time in Switzerland during the war because it was safe there. And then we have him meeting Prokofiev, who's another super famous Russian composer. And you know something famous that Prokofiev wrote, which is called Peter and the Wolf. Yeah, of course you've heard of it. And we saw the cartoon of it, right? When the Russian Revolution broke out toward the end of World War I, Stravinsky thought that he would move to France, and he wrote another ballet, oh my word, called Pulcinella. And also, his family moved to Brittany for a little while in England, and then in France, and then the following year they moved to Biarritz. He composed something called the symphonies for wind instruments. You know the wind instruments, we talked about that. They are the flute and the piccolo and the oboe and the clarinet and the bassoon. That's the wind family, right? This symphony for wind instruments, so it's not for violins and the string family or the percussion family or the brass, just for the wind family. It was performed in London, and also at that performance they performed The Rite of Spring, the orchestra. So now we're going to listen to something that Stravinsky wrote around this time that he was in France, called Piano Concerto for 2 solo pianos. Guess what? Stravinsky played one of the pianos. They're a big 12-foot concert grand piano, huge, long, that opens up, the top opens up. And the other person who was playing the piano was his son. Remember I told you he had a son and a daughter? Wow, so we're just about to listen to that. That's exciting. No orchestra, just 2 pianos. Super cool. Okay, so I'm going to bring that up right now for you because I really want you to hear it. Okay, here we go. All right. No, that's the sonata. Hang on, sorry. Just 1 second. I got to go back to the concerto. Sorry, guys. Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can rewind it a little bit. Yep, there we go. It's perfect. 2 big concert grands, 1 pianist, the other pianist, Stravinsky and his son. Difficult to play. Gotta practice a lot. It's not for beginners. You have to take for many years. that gives you an idea of the piano concerto for 2 pianos. All right, he also wrote another ballet called The Fairy's Kiss. And guess what? The reason I'm mentioning The Fairy's Kiss to you is because Peter Tchaikovsky, which was a music hero, he was a music hero of Igor Stravinsky. So Stravinsky borrowed some music and changed it up, some Tchaikovsky music, and changed it to be his own composition, but he used the ideas from Tchaikovsky's music because he admired Tchaikovsky. He thought he was an amazing composer, which he was, and we learned about him. Okay, so then just as World War II started, he had been sick, but he was well enough to travel to America because they wanted him to teach at Harvard University, which is a very important college here in America, and it's still a super college. So when he arrived in America, he had many invitations to conduct concerts all over, and after that, guess what? A very big honor was that he was invited to the White House to meet President Kennedy, who was the president when I was born. And in the same year, he returned to Russia for a visit. And he had not been there for almost 50 years. Wow, that's a long time to be away from your homeland, right? People in Russia welcomed him. They were really excited to see him. And it made Stravinsky very happy to know that Russians were interested in his music again. So he died in 1971. And he was living in New York at that time, so he had come back to America. Wow, what a super guy. He was like really a special composer. I'm glad we got a chance to learn about him. And I wanted to wish you a very happy summer and enjoy yourself. And we'll see you again for music in September. Bye. Bye for now.